In this movie, we're going to take a look at the outliner. Now, the outliner is similar to the hypergraph, except the outliner gives us a text list of all of the objects or nodes in our scene. Let's take a look at it. We can open it through Windows, Outliner, and that will give us a separate window here. Or we can choose one of the predefined layouts in our panel layout window underneath our toolbox. So I'll grab this one right here, which gives us the outliner and our perspective view. This way, the outliner is now embedded into our interface. Now, the outliner shows us our list, and you can see we have our hidden objects here, perspective, top, these are all our cameras, just like what we saw inside of the hypergraph. They are also grayed out. Then we have the objects or nodes in our scene. Notice there is a plus sign here because this particular hierarchy or group has been collapsed. We can expand this group by hitting the plus, and then you will see that that expands out into another plus until we get to the end of our hierarchy. And there is our last object, P cube 2. We can also right click on the outliner itself to bring up a pop up menu that allows us to display other types of nodes. So, for instance, we could do show shapes. And now you can see we have a plus showing us that we could expand one of these nodes in order to see another node underneath it. Here we have the perspective camera shape node. I'm going to just select an object from our scene here. Let's grab the lowest one, P cube 2. And instead of having to continually hit plus, with that node selected, I could right click and scroll down and go to reveal selected. And that will automatically show me where that node exists within the hierarchy that it's under. And again, we can hit plus to expose its shape node. Now we can resize this window here as well. We can perform parent-child relationships just like we did using our hypergraph. And before we do that, let's just turn off shapes just to make it a little bit easier to see. And we can do this by going to display and just check shapes. And that is the equivalent of right mouse clicking inside of the outliner to bring up that pop-up menu. I'm going to click P cube 2, middle mouse, and just drag it down here into empty space. Now you can see it's no longer parented. It is a parent itself to the world inside my outliner there, and it is not attached to any hierarchy. Simple parent-child relationship. And I can then click on P cube 2, and if I want to make that a child of P sphere 1 again, I can middle mouse and just drag up to P sphere 1. Pretty much the same exact workflow we used inside of the hypergraph. Now, currently, our outliner is not very full because we don't have a lot of objects in our scene. But let's select our group node here, and I'm going to duplicate it several times. I'm going to use our hotkey, which is Control D, in order to duplicate that. And that's the equivalent of going to Edit Duplicate right there. And we'll look further at that type of tool in a later video. But now let's expand that. Just open it up. And I'm going to duplicate this a couple more times here just to get that to scroll off. And we'll just expand a couple of these and we'll just select that and do a big reveal selected just to open up all of those hierarchy. Now, when I go down to the bottom here, you can see that there is a little bar that highlights. If I grab that and pull it up, we get what seems to be a second outliner. This allows us to split the outliner into two different sections. Now, why would we want to do this? Mainly because when we have a lot of objects, which we will, working pretty much in any scene, we're going to have a lot of nodes out there. This allows me to work in two different locations at once. So if I'm looking at group 1 and I want to take group 10 and make it a child of group 1, that's rather difficult to do if I'm stuck inside of a single window. But now, since I can split this, I can look at two different locations simultaneously, and I can middle mouse on group 10 and just drag it right up here to group 1, and now it's a child of that. Now you'll also saw there that when I select a node, that it auto scrolls. Let's bring this down. So if I am working in a single view and we scroll all the way down and we have p cube 2, and I want to make this a child of that group number 1, I can middle mouse and drag and you'll see that that auto scroll takes place and then I drop it wherever I need to. But having two windows allows me to have a little bit better control and a much greater overview of what's actually happening inside of my scene. Now, we can also isolate objects from the outliner so that we can either see them or not see them. But if I just wanted to look at the cameras of the scene, I can choose that show objects and check cameras. Everything else is hidden. And now I'm just focusing on the cameras of my scene. This is really important because, again, this outliner, it's going to get filled up just like the hypergraph. And a lot of times we only want to look at one thing, and I don't want to have to sift through hundreds of nodes. So this is very useful. And you can also do this inside of the hypergraph. There is a similar, if not identical, menu there for show, and you can check those objects. And then when you're done, you can just choose clear below, which will return you back to normal, or you can choose this filter button right here. I can click on that and make all of that show up again. Now, the other thing I could do is go inside of here and type in a text field and actually look for specific objects. Now, I don't have anything named p cube, but if I put p cube 1 in there, actually, let's do group because that's going to be a child. Group 1 is the only object that's going to show up because it's the only one that matches this filter setting that I just applied. However, we can use wildcards. And the wildcard in this case is just an asterisk. So if I put group asterisk, then it's going to show me all of the objects that match group. And then whatever value is after group, it's going to ignore, but show me all of those. So in this case, I get groups 1 through 9. Now, it wouldn't matter. This object right here, for instance, and I'm just going to double click it to rename it. And so if I called this group bunch of objects, doesn't matter, capital letters or whatever, the asterisk is still going to pick that up. So again, if I just do group, star, or asterisk, all of that's going to show up. It doesn't have to be a number. It can be anything that follows the letter P matching that string of letters right there.